Welcome into the round table. I am Brad Wakai. That is Tyson Gentry. Today, we are breaking down the ACC Conference today, starting off our college football conference previews. We are breaking down all the Power 5 conferences leading up to the start of the college football season and ending with the best of the rest, where we look at the group of 5 and some independents as we kind of get you ready for the start of college football season. Today's the ACC Conference. Next week is the Pac-12, so make sure to stay tuned. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on our social medias down below so you can stay up to date with everything. But, Tyson, we got a lot to get into today. ACC Conference, baby. It's exciting. Some good quarterbacks. We got a lot for the audience to listen to.
Yeah, good quarterbacks, fun football. And that's really all it is in the ACC. Clemson plays defense, and every couple of years somebody else plays pretty good defense. But for the most part, these guys are spreading it out and slanging it.
Absolutely. And last year, you mentioned Clemson. They were knocked off their pedestal. They had a stronghold on this conference until last year. Pittsburgh won the ACC Conference Championship game, knocking off Wake Forest, who won the Atlantic Division. So can Clemson regain their dominance over this conference? I think that's the big question going into the season here. You have a bunch of different teams that we'll get into are hungry. Pittsburgh wants to stay there. You know, Wake Forest was so close. They had a really successful season last year. They want to get back to that mountaintop. This should be an exciting year in this conference.
And this is the first time in, a decade that Dabo and the boys over at Clemson have really faced some adversity coming off of a year where preseason, I think they were like number 3 or something like that. They lose to Georgia week 1. And then it was just kind of DJU wasn't very good. 10 touchdowns or 10 interceptions, 9 touchdowns, I think. I think he had more interceptions than touchdowns a year ago.
Yeah.
After being in all those Dr. Pepper commercials. They lose, they lose staff for the first time really ever. And so now it's like, okay, bud, you're a good coach and you've had a really good program, but Saban does this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what they do at Bama. Georgia is doing this. This is the first time you've had to do it. And
yeah,
they're rolling up as many 5-star classes as you can. In the ACC, it'll win you the conference, but when you get to the playoffs, ask Oklahoma how that goes. Right? Like, if you want to be a Clemson football team, are they back or not? And it's going to be interesting to find out.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Oklahoma. That's where their longtime defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, went to take over that program. And then they lost their offensive coordinator last year as well, or this upcoming season as well. So, like you mentioned, staff turnover at Clemson. First time Dabo Swinney's really had to face that challenge. So we'll see how he handles it. For the audience out there, I guess I'll go through some notes real quick as we get into it. But ACC going away from the Atlantic Division and Coastal Division format next year in 2023. This year, they'll still be doing it. So the Atlantic Division winner will play the Coastal Division winner.
Do you like divisions in college football? I hate it too. I think it's the stupidest thing. It makes no sense.
I think it's so stupid, especially with the travel now. There's no point. Like, come on.
And you're taking almost always the second best team in the conference is the loser to the best team on the same side.
I know. It makes no sense to me. So I'm glad like these conferences are getting away from it. So 2023, the ACC will move that direction. But for this year, winner of the Atlantic will play the winner of the Coastal. And that's how it'll be set up. For the audience, we're doing a tier breakdown today. We have broken this conference into 4 different tiers. We have placed our schools in these tiers, and we'll be breaking them down for you, as well as giving you a little gambling angle and money making time, as we always do, giving out picks, who's going to win the conference, maybe some potential long shots, as well as win total figures that we're going to be firing on as well. So let's get right into it, Tyson. Our tier breakdown. We're pretty much aligned on all of them. We got a couple differentiators, and I think you have a funny name for one coming up here soon. But let's start here. The basketball schools. I mean, three schools in here: Duke, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse. I mean, what else do you want to say? But these guys are waiting for basketball season. That's what it is.
And there's a couple more basketball schools in here, but we just couldn't have half the conference in the basketball school tier. And look, it's a basketball conference, right? We know this about the ACC. The football programs have really taken off kind of interchangeably until Clemson kind of took hold of the conference here. But it's just kind of been random, and the teams are really good at basketball. But, like, we're not going to get into the weeds here on Duke football. So we're going to leave these teams here at the bottom. New staffs, I think, across the board for all three of those. And you're looking at plus 100,000 odds to win the division for Duke. So if you're really into it, put $1 on it.
Yeah, throw a little tip money on there, and you'll be good. Did want to highlight a player at Syracuse, Sean Tucker, running back, third-team preseason All-American, getting looks there. You were familiar with him from your Dynasty NFL fantasy football coverage, so that's a highlight maybe for some of these schools in this basketball tier school, basketball schools tier that we did. So Sean Tucker, a name to keep an eye out, running back at Syracuse.
Prototype, like. You look up an NFL running back, what they look like Sean Tucker. Look at how they play like Sean Tucker. There's a reason this dude's getting third-team All-American buzz from Syracuse, right? He's the best running back they've had since Jim Brown and was it Ernie Davis?
Ernie Davis, yeah.
So it's been, and even then, I don't know his numbers, but I had heard that somebody said he was statistically the best running back in Syracuse history. I didn't go diving into that because that's for the birds. You can have the best stats. It's Jim Brown, buddy. But yeah, he's really good. And I think like this last year in the NFL draft, the running backs kind of sucked. Like Breece Hall was really good. Ken Walker, he's going by Ken now, but he's all right. He's a good player. And then it's kind of like Dameon Pierce, Rashad White. This next class,
Brian Robinson,
stacked. 2023 is stacked with running backs, and Sean Tucker might be the best one.
Ooh, there we go. I love that prediction from Tyson here. Okay, let's move into our hopeless tier, and this is one you have a funny name for as we get through it. But in here, Boston College, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. What's the name you have for this tier, Tyson?
I just call this the trash tier, but they have NFL quarterbacks, and Virginia Tech doesn't fall into this. But Brad's calling them hopeless, and I think that's where Virginia Tech's at. They get Brad's boy Brent Pry, defensive coordinator from Penn State. Has never broke Brad's heart once in his tenure in Happy Valley. But I think for them, right, it's transfers everywhere. Quarterbacks, they get transfers of wide receiver. The offensive line, nobody's coming back. It's going to be one of those things where if they can rattle off a couple decent wins here, and then a year from now, we might be talking about Brent Pry being able to establish himself and go out and win 9 games. But I'm not looking at Virginia Tech this year. This isn't Beamer, baby.
This is not Beamer ball. This is not your dad's Virginia Tech team here. A couple interesting nuggets here. And how I kind of want to throw this at you, too. And here's a nice nugget as we play week to week on Virginia Tech. 27% of their yards from last year is returning. It's 117th in the country out of 131 schools at the FBS level. That's not good. That's not good. Now, 75% of their tackle production is returning. That's 18th in the country. Maybe Virginia Tech's an under team. Good defense, offense, that's a mess. Transfers, they're not used to each other. How about that for an angle?
Dude, you could return 100% of tackling on a bad defense, and it doesn't really matter. Like this is the
Brent
ACC.
Pry's defensive guy.
We don't take unders in the ACC. You know this.
True. Plus 5,000 to win the ACC conference, and their win total at 6.5, juice to the under at minus 160. They went 6-7 last year, 4-4 in conference. I don't know if I see an extra win here on that schedule for them, but that's something we'll get into in Money Making Time. Now let's get into your nickname for this tier. Your boys at Virginia and your boy Brennan Armstrong. Tell the country and tell the listeners about Brennan Armstrong.
Oh, 4th in the nation in passing yards a year ago, generating NFL buzz. Obviously, the return, whatever he heard from the NFL, wasn't what he was happy with, so he comes back to Virginia, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, he's not going to go in the first round. I don't have any illusion that he's going to come back and, Joe Burrow this thing. But he's a really good player, and they're going to be fun. And we were just talking that Virginia Tech could be an under team. I think Virginia could be an over team. And I think Brennan Armstrong's somebody that everybody listening to this, and Brad and I included, are going to lose bets because he's going to throw for 500 yards on somebody that they shouldn't beat, and they're going to win games because of him.
Brennan Armstrong, to your point, last year, 4,500 yards through the air at a 65% completion percentage with a 3-1 touchdown interception with 31 TDs, 10 interceptions. So good year for him last year, like to your point. Also, new head coach, Tony Elliott taking over for Bronco Mendenhall. Tony Elliott was the offensive coordinator at Clemson since 2015. Maybe bringing a little bit more offensive mind to pair with Brennan Armstrong.
He had some good quarterbacks.
Yeah, they got some good. Yeah, had some good quarterbacks there. Another player to keep an eye out for, Dontavion Wicks, wide receiver, 4th team preseason All-American watch. He's a stud, NFL type body. Definitely, I think, going to play at the next level. Other quick nuggets before you get into some more of your Virginia thoughts, Tyson. 81% of their yards on this team is returning. The problem is they only have 2 offensive line starts returning. That is literally last in the entire country. So your boy may be running around a little bit, but hey, he can sling it.
Hey, he's sneaky. He's an athlete. But yeah, the offensive line sucks and the defensive line's not much better. So if you're looking at Virginia as a sleeper in the ACC, I just point you in the direction of Clemson's defensive line.
Plus 4,800 to win if you like him to be a sleeper. Their win total over under 7.5, juiced under minus 160. If you like over that number, it is plus 135. Speaking of sneaky, how about your boy Phil Jerkovich at Boston College? I don't think many people know about him. I think he may surprise some people this year.
Yeah, man. He's, Notre Dame transfer. But I just said Sean Tucker was the prototype, right, for an NFL running back. I'm pretty sure if you took all 32 coaches and had them describe just in a vacuum their dream quarterback, yeah, he's like 6'5", he can giant arm, sling the ball, and he's coachable, right? And that's Phil Jerkovich. He's 6'5". He's not a mover, not a shaker, but he's going to be in the NFL. And I was telling you this, I think there's a way that, 10 years down the line, we're like, that dude's still a backup. And I think, he's going to surprise people. Last year, broke his wrist, missed all but 2 games. And this year, I think that they're going to be a little better, but at the end of the day, it's Boston College.
Right.
And so he can be as good as damn near anybody in the country, and it's not going to have the impact as if he was playing at Texas.
Definitely not. I mean, they're not returning a whole lot either. They lost 2 All-Americans in a program like Boston College. That hurts, especially when they're on the O-line. They're only bringing back 26 offensive line starts from their group, which is 125th in the nation. So it may not have a lot of time to show off that prototypical arm, but I think to your point, man, I mean, he's a good player. And when he played 2 years ago, he was turning heads and he got some NFL buzz. People were like, man, that Jerkovich kid can play. I think he'd forgotten by some people just because he didn't play last year with his broken wrist. People may be going into this season like, man, Boston College, that kid's good. Who is that guy? So they may be a sneaky team this year that beats somebody they shouldn't a few times.
And I think in 2020, the COVID year, he set some sort of record. I'm trying to see if I can find it, but it was like the first Boston College quarterback ever to have 4 300-yard games or something like that. And he did that as a transfer sophomore. So there's a chance he's already the best Boston College quarterback in the last 30 years or whatever. That's it. That's all on Big Phil.
That's all Big Phil for you. Conference future, plus 5,000 if you think they're going to win the ACC. Win total at 6.5. Juiced under at minus 130. The over number is plus 110. 2021 without Jerkovich, they were 6-6, and they did go 2-6 in conference. Maybe Phil gets them over that number. I mean, 6-6 last year, over money on a 6.5, better quarterback. That may be something to think about. Okay, moving into our hopeful tier here, Tyson. And now we have one team. You have one team in the contender tier, and when I have them in this hopeful tier, I have in this hopeful tier Florida State, Louisville, North Carolina, and Miami. Let's start with Florida State because I think you and I both think that Florida State's not hopeful to win the conference or anything like that. Pre-show notes, you were telling me what's your hopeful for this Florida State team?
I think Florida State should be elated if they get back to making a bowl game. They're returning 15 starters off of a bad team. And after they lost to Jackson State a year ago, everybody kind of gave up on them. Still finished 4-4 in conference. Finished the year okay. It's just Jordan Travis is there's a million of these guys across the country that are just fine, and he's going to be the starter again, right? And I'm not a huge Florida State believer. I'm not looking at them to by any means even win their division, but I think that Florida State is going to be good enough to like for people next year to be like, okay, they're coming back. We're getting there. And one thing I do want to note there, we're talking about a team, right, losing pass rush to the NFL. Jared Verse out of Albany in the FCS. You guys know I'm the FCS guy. This dude can play, and he's really good. And I think that, whenever he leaves Florida State, we're going to be like, they did it again. They got another transfer that just hit in the first round.
I'll be interested to see how this team does. I mean, you said it. I mean, it was embarrassing last year. Mike Norvell somehow survived the hot seat. He probably should have been fired last year.
Nobody wanted the job.
True. I mean, who wants the job at this point? 18th toughest schedule in the country this year, according to Phil Steele. They, like you mentioned, they are returning dudes. 65% of their yards from the offense is returning. They're bringing back 101 offensive line starts, which is 32nd in the nation. And their defense might be good. They're bringing back 77% of their tackles, 13th in the country. So there is some hope for Florida State. Their win total's at 6.5.
That's the bowl line.
A little bit, -115, unders -105. That's the bowl line right there. That's right where we're thinking, Tyson. But they went 5-7 in 2021, 4-4 in conference. Are they good enough to get back to the bowl? It's yet to be seen. They're plus 3,000 to win the conference. So I don't know.
I'm not touching that. 3,000. I mean, this is still a team that lost to, Deion Sanders. And now Deion Sanders has what's that kid's name? Is it Travis Hunter? The number one recruit in the country?
And he turned down Florida State.
Yeah. So that's how far they've fallen in the last decade.
Next team in this hopeful tier, I think kind of for a similar reason as Louisville. 6-7 in 2021, nothing spectacular. They went 4-4 in conference. Now, why are they in here? They're in here for me because of one reason only, and that's Malik Cunningham. I mean, that dude's electric on offense. Not a great passer, 3,000 yards, only 19 TDs through the air, but he also ran for 1,000 on the ground, had 20 touchdowns on the ground, and was the leading rusher last year. I mean, the dude is electric.
How do they find these guys?
I don't know.
How does Louisville find these guys? And then this one, a little bit different than the Lamar days. I think Braden Smith, who missed a lot of last year, is actually going to be pretty good. They got D. Wiggins from Miami, Tyler Hudson from Central Arkansas. They might have some playmakers, right? But for as fun and everything as that is, the last 7 games last year, they couldn't break 30 points. And that's got to change because Louisville's defense isn't stopping anybody.
No, not at all. This is an over team in terms of a week-to-week type of look. I mean, they're returning 80% of their yards on offense, 116 offensive line starts. I mean, this team offense may be like one of the most efficient in the country, especially with Malik Cunningham back there. And on that offensive line I just mentioned, Caleb Chandler is getting second-team preseason All-American looks, NFL potential there. So a team in Louisville, I mean, they should improve on 6-7 in Scott Satterfield's 4th season here at the helm.
But I just can't get what Ole Miss did to him on national TV out of my head.
Oh, they embarrassed them.
That was bad.
And that was like the opening week.
That was the first week. And I think the defense finished like 9th in the conference, but all year it was like, oh, this defense sucks. And they lose guys in the front 7, right? The secondary should be a little better theoretically, but they're losing guys from a bad defense, which in college is always kind of a, maybe the next guy up is going to be better because you don't know. Maybe he got better in that year, but it seems unlikely that Louisville's defense is going to make a jump to the top half of the ACC.
Plus 3,000 to win the ACC this year. Their win totals over-unders at 5.5, juiced over at -165. Maybe in money making time for me. We'll see. Last one we're consensus on in the hopeful. North Carolina. Last year, coming off a very, very disappointing 2021. 6-7 they finished with Sam. What's his name? Sam. Not Hubbard. That's the D lineman. Sam.
Throwing the towel for Howell. Sam Howell.
Sam Howell.
That was the tank slogan 2 years ago. And that dude was a 3rd round pick or whatever.
Yeah, talk about a fall from grace. He's in Washington, D.C. at the Commanders, but really never got it going last year. 3-5 in conference. They had some bad losses. I mean, they finished 5th out of 7 in their own division, Tyson. Really, really bad. Mac Brown's back. It's his 4th season back since he's been there, going 21-17. It's been fine. It's just hasn't quite worked out for North Carolina to save 1 year.
The one thing though, their saving grace is they've been killing the recruiting trail, and they're killing it again in 2022. Like these recruits they keep getting are just better and better. And if you look in the NFL, there's a sneaky amount of North Carolina guys, especially on the offensive side, especially over the last couple of years. I think that Josh Downs is the next one. I think that's somebody that he's going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. I think, like, this dude is really good, and combined with the fact that they're going to be a little fun, they don't have a quarterback. They just don't.
Right.
And I don't know who's going to end up winning the job there. And I don't know enough about North Carolina football to be speculating on these two guys. But I do think that whoever it is gets to throw to Josh Downs, and that's a pretty good way to boost your own stock.
The rumor right now is Drake May is going to win that job, Tyson. I was looking into it. I'm like, who the hell is it? They go transfer portal. They didn't. So they, to your point, they like the guys they're bringing in. This is somebody they brought in and is climbing up through his seniority at North Carolina. So he's the heir apparent to Sam Howell. I don't know. I just don't see it with North Carolina this year. They're plus 2,500 to win. I don't. That seems really short to me with this team. Win total at 6.5, juiced over minus 160. Very interesting. I mean, they're returning 39% of their yards on offense, and you're handing the keys to a kid who's never started in college. I guess 104 offensive line starts, which is 26. So, maybe they can give him some time and he can figure it out. But apparently their defense is going to be good. I don't know too much about their defense. Just know that, 73% of their tackle output is returning, which is top 25 in the country. So, I mean, we'll see with this team. I don't see it. I know some people think it's going to be a bounce back year for North Carolina. I think they're going to be middle of the road like they were. Maybe they get over 7 wins or something like that.
I'm just excited to see what running back pops off next, because over the last 2 years we've had Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, and Ty Chandler. Like, they've had some studs go through that backfield. So whoever's next, and so far it hasn't been the guy that we thought it was going to be year over year. So it'll be interesting. And then to round out my hopeful tier, I know that they're in your contender tier here, but I got Pitt. I just think, Keaton Slovis he's fine. Certainly not Kenny Pickett. Losing Jordan Addison is huge. I think they have the closest thing they've had to Aaron Donald in a long time. And is it Cansey?
Yeah, Cansey.
The defensive tackle there. He's an absolute monster. But overall, I mean, between the staff losses, between losing Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison, it's a ton. And it's not like in the NFL where you can go sign another professional to, come in and play. It's like, we got to hope to replace the guy who won the Heisman.
You're right.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, plus 1,000 to win the ACC, win total at 7.5. And last year they had that dream season, 11-3, winning the ACC championship game and went 7-1 in conference. Pat Narduzzi's got it rolling a little bit. He kind of annoys me on social media and the bullshit he says in his press conference. But the guy's done a good job at Pitt, so can't hate on him too much. But Tyson, they are bringing back 145 starts on their O-line, which is second in the country, which I'm kind of surprised about. I thought they would have graduated a few of those guys. It feels like, the same name's been popping up for a long time. I think the best one's Carter Warren. He's getting the preseason All-American look at tackle. So I'm intrigued. But to your point, that they lost 3 All-Americans, Pitt. I mean, how many times do you say they had 3 All-Americans on the team and they come back and have the same type of output? So I'm with you. The only reason I put them in my contenders bracket here really is because the O-line has those starts. Keaton Slovis, I think, is formidable. Now, was he great at USC? No. He wasn't. If he was great, I don't think Lincoln Riley would have tried to bring anybody else in. Like, that's the thing. So
I'd leave more adequate than formidable.
Adequate. Yeah, that's a good word, I guess. That's a good word. But, I think in this side, they're going to have some problems, but they're the champion from last year. They're going to have that mentality. You're going to have to knock them off. That's pretty much the only reason why I have my contender. They're going to have a good O-line. 66% of their tackles are returning. Narduzzi is a defensive guy. Can they keep the magic rolling into this season? I think it's going to be hard, but I think they can knock on the door a little bit. But I will say, plus 1,000 to win the ACC this year does feel short to me.
Yeah, it seems optimistic for sure.
Let's dive into these contenders a little bit more. Wake Forest.
This team's going to be awesome.
I'm excited for them.
This team's, I don't know if they're going to be awesome as far as like, can they win? I think there's a chance, and that's why I have them in my contender tier. Defense last year gave up like 30 points a game. They bring in Brad Lambert from Purdue, kind of trying to shore that up. But, we keep talking about quarterbacks, and I'm sure people are like, we get it. You guys are hyping up these QBs. But Sam Hartman's good at Wake
was
Forest.
So fun last year.
And A.T. Perry is really good at wide receiver. And they have the 52nd ranked schedule in the country. Like, this is a recipe, and I was saying it, that every year there's a team where something hits. And I think Hartman to Perry could be the thing this year, and all of a sudden we have a new Pickett-Addison combo in the ACC. Not saying either one of these guys are going to be quite the level of college player, because, we're talking – Kenny Pickett was awesome, and Jordan Addison is like – that dude is one of the better college wide receivers I've seen in a while. So they'll probably be like the light version of the Pitt connection last year. But that connection was still good enough, to win 11 games. And I think to think Wake Forest is going to take a step backwards after last season seems a bit silly.
Here's something interesting. So Wake Forest went 11-3 last year, 7-1 in conference. Dave Clawson's finished above the preseason rankings where the media has ranked his team every single one of the 9 seasons he's been at Wake Forest. This guy's an overachiever and a winner. Sam Hartman last year threw for 4,200 yards, 60%, 59% completions, 39 touchdowns, only 14 picks, and also ran in 11 touchdowns on his own. Dude is a contributor. Dude is productive. A.T. Perry, like you mentioned, he's got potential to be first-round draft pick. He's going to be really good. 80% of their yards from last year on offense are returning, Tyson. And this team's getting no love.
And that's a lot of yards.
It's a lot of yards. 80%. And that offense was prolific.
Yeah, this isn't Florida State's offense returning 80%. This is, the best offense in the damn conference a year ago.
If you like them, and it sounds like you do.
I do. I like
plus 2,100 to win the ACC. Their win totals at 8.5, juiced under minus 115. So if you like their over, it's minus 105. Interesting. That's all I'm going to say for now. But I like Wake Forest this year. I like that offense. Another team I really like, NC State. I'm all over NC State this year. Another great quarterback in this conference. Yeah, not great NFL. Devin Leary's a stud, man.
Yeah.
3,400 yards, 65% completions last year. Tyson, he threw 35 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Yeah, and on top of that, they had the 15th best scoring defense in the country, and they're returning a ton. Like, this is a team that, NC State sounds weird to say, but I think they have the most returning on offense and defense in the country, or in the ACC, and 8th in the country or something. And one of my favorite things to look at for college quarterbacks is yards per attempt and touchdown rate. And those things normally mean that whatever quarterback was right around the number last year of leading the conference, that guy normally takes a jump if he comes back to school, and that's where we're at. And he leads in both categories. There's a chance this dude's, giving a speech in New York.
I'm excited for Devin Leary this year. It's going to be sick. And to your point, just put a bow on who's returning. I haven't heard this in a while. 83% of their tackles are returning. It's 4th in the country. And then you're giving this kid short fields because the defense is good, potentially turnovers. 67% of their yards on offense returning as well. Sure, they lost 2 All-Americans. Everybody knows, Akeem Ekwonu. Man, they're returning 2 All-Americans, 1 first-team All-Conference, 3 second-team All-Conference players, and 2 third-team All-Conference players. This is a good football team this year. Their win totals at 8.5, juiced over minus 165. They're plus 800 to win the ACC. That feels super, super doable. Or at least the win total is a joke. That's way too low. Yeah. Plus 800. That feels long on a team returning this much in a conference that we still have questions about Clemson. We're acting like they're Alabama.
I would just to kind of counterbalance all of our quarterback love here. The ACC coaches believe us too, because the preseason player of the year, Devin Leary in first place, Sam Hartman second, and then a guy I think we're about to talk about right now, Tyler Van Dyke out of Miami, is third, and then Brendan Armstrong's fourth, Malik Cunningham sixth or fifth. So it's a quarterback conference. But as far as Miami goes, like Tyler Van Dyke kind of came out of nowhere a year ago. Like we'd
Yeah.
heard that maybe this kid's going to get the job. They get just shitted on by Alabama to start the year. Which is best yearly tradition ever is Alabama killing the hype train to week one. And Miami was that, and everyone was all excited. And they were scoring like 18 points a game for the first couple weeks. And it's like, this team sucks. Tyler Van Dyke comes in, they go 5-2 and score 36 points a game. They're on the up and up. And we talked about it a little bit in like December, Brad, but they got a new head coach too.
Yep. You want to tell the country who he is?
How do you feel about the Canes going into this year?
I like him. I like him a lot. And if they're my pick to win the Coastal, and we can touch on that a little bit in Money Making Time, but I like him. I think they're going to be good. Everything I've read about Tyler Van Dyke is the people who know like college football, and that's all they do. They're like, this kid's a stud. Like I'm telling you, like he might be the best quarterback in this conference. And we ran through how much we think this conference is going to have fun college quarterbacks. He might be the best one. 3,000 yards on a limited schedule last year, 25 touchdown passes. The dude can sling the rock. I'm excited to see him. I'm really excited to see him. Plus, Mario Cristobal comes in. Talk about an upgrade over Manny Diaz. Like that dude.
Not even close.
Manny Diaz is terrible. He's our new defensive coordinator at Penn State. We'll get into that in the Big Ten breakdown. But Mario Cristobal, 35-13 at Oregon. He had 2 conference championships in 4 years. I mean, he's coming back home. He's going to get this thing rolling. But we're talking about this year, right? 23rd in returning output coming back. 137 starts on their offensive line. That's 4th in the country. Tyler Van Dyke's going to be able to throw the rock around, baby. This is going to be fun.
If anybody can get Miami back to where they're supposed to be, it's Mario Cristobal. And if he can't do it, then the job can't be done. Like this guy is Miami through and through. And he's walked into the best Miami team for my money that they've had. I know the turnover chain was fun and they had like a brief stint in like the top 10. That team sucked too.
They sucked.
Like this is actually going to be a good football team, I think. And I think that is going to scare people. Because
I was going to ask you actually about the turnover chain. What do you think about that getting retired?
That's good. I think that was the stupidest thing ever. Like it's cool and it was fun, but then everybody started to have their own, and then it was like not cool anymore. And then
especially when they were bad.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's one thing, to put it on when you get a pick six on ESPN on national TV to beat Clemson. It's another thing to put it on, when you're 3 points down to Wake Forest or you're losing to like Duke at halftime and you get an interception. Like those ones, it's just so corny. But yeah, I think the culture change at Miami is going to be something I'm interested to see too, because we talk a lot about, some teams are just soft. And Miami's been soft for a decade. And the only way out is through. In the ACC, like you can't finesse Clemson. Like nobody's ever done it. The only teams that beat them, like the LSU team, the Alabama teams, Georgia, right? Like you got to punch them in the face. And Miami hasn't punched anybody in the face since 1985.
Ooh. Mario Cristobal maybe turned it around.
2009, I think.
But. Right. But yeah, it's been a long time for Miami. Not quite the Florida State fall from grace, but damn close. It's been rough for those schools.
We're just not old enough. It's probably just as drastic, I'd imagine, but we just didn't get to live through the OG days.
True. That's fair. That is fair. But let's talk about the Kings, man. I mean, Clemson. I mean, you teed it up well. They're Clemson in this conference. They had a bad year last year. It happens. Question is, are they going to be back this year? DJ Alungalele, quarterback, was horrible last year. Everybody thought he was the next guy. Man, 5-star kid. Woo! Blows up Notre Dame and whoever else after. Well, last year he went through for 2,300 yards, only completed 55.6% of his passes,
so bad.
9 touchdowns, 10 picks.
In this conference right now, and get this straight. So for the last 35 minutes, we've talked about how all these other quarterbacks that you never heard of ripped the ACC up. And this dude couldn't hold a job because he couldn't put up numbers that he was supposed to be going in like the first round. Right? Him
I
and
know.
Spencer Rattler are competing to see who can fumble the bag harder here.
Absolutely. Oh gosh. Clemson. Okay, so they are the favorites to win the conference, minus 155. They went 10-3 in 2021. Man, they were terrible last year. They still went 10-3. 6-2 in conference. Their over-unders at 10.5, plus 105 to the over, juiced under at minus 125. Interesting there. What's your thoughts on Clemson coming into this season?
Well, I don't think DJU is good. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think that for them to win the national championship, he can be the quarterback. Maybe there's a chance, but in college anymore, you don't win with somebody at QB. You win because of that somebody at quarterback, and it's mirrored the NFL that way. Where AJ McCarron could get it done 10 years ago, but AJ McCarron on Alabama now, and they're a 10-win team. Like they're going to get beat, right? So I think one thing, Cade Klubnik is going to be somebody to keep an eye on. He's the new Trevor Lawrence, right? And this is the
Right.
Bryant situation.
Yep.
It's the same thing T-Law walked into. So let's see if it's real. But the defensive line is just stacked. And then they add like 10 more 5-stars over the last 2 years to the unit that they already have. Like if you look at the ACC preseason All-American teams, it just feels like NC State, Wake Forest, and Clemson are the only 3 teams in the damn conference. And there's a reason for that, right? Clemson kills the recruiting game. We know this, but there's so many question marks around these guys. I think you'd be foolish to walk into this season and not think that they're the favorites to win the conference. But I think you'd be equally kind of out of line to think, oh, they're just going to roll through this thing. We don't know. There's a chance these guys are 14-0 and kill everybody. And there's a chance that, both these quarterbacks stink.
There's a big chance. That's the thing to keep an eye on. And I think when you talk about these long shot prices, I mean, NC State plus 800.
Deep.
Minus 155 is interesting. I mean, I'll start this off. We're going to get into Money Making Time right now to close the show. We're going to have our bets. And I'm telling you guys, we take these bets. Like, we're not fucking around. I'm going to be holding
Follow us. We post them.
We post them. Follow us on those socials. We'll be posting. We're going to have a big football season. Don't you guys worry out there. You can win with us. Conference, I'm going to take Clemson. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Clemson minus 155 to win the ACC. I just think they're going to get back to it, man. I do. Yeah, DJ may not be great, but this defense is so good. And plus, man, they're returning 85% of their yards. I mean, yeah, DJ sucks and they lost Justin Ross, but their running backs are awesome. And that's what Dabo wants to do anyway. They want to run the ball. That's how they've had success. So I'm going to take them to win the conference at minus 155. I think if it gets to minus 200, hell, I'll say this. If it gets to minus 180, that's too short. Like, you got to look elsewhere because there's going to be way more value because that has to go somewhere else in the market. Minus 155, I say minus 160 is probably like my sweet spot. So I'm going to take it now. Clemson minus 155 to win this conference. Tyson, do you have a pick to win the ACC that you're rolling with right now?
It's got to be Clemson. I mean, okay. We just talked about it. We talked everybody up and kind of shut Clemson down there for a bit, but they're still the most talented team top to bottom by a mile. And they might be the best coached too. We don't all the way know. I mean, this is the first time I think in a while that we've been able to question it with the addition of Mario Cristobal, because that was awesome, but that was been running through a bunch of guys that haven't been able to hold jobs, for the most part. One team I'm really intrigued by here on these lines, and we talked a lot about it, but Wake Forest at plus 2,100 right now feels to me like a really good play if you like the team, which I do. And I said that every year something breaks right, and I'll probably repeat that a million times over all these breakdowns. But they have a really good chance. And then North Carolina State plus 800. But if you're just going an outright winner, I think Clemson is the pick.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you there. That line is wrong for Wake Forest. Plus 2,100. They were in the ACC championship last year. And it's not like they lost everybody. They're bringing back the 34th in returners. Like, come on. What are we doing here? And then, yeah, NC State, we talked about it, why I think they're going to be good. Plus 800, 8-1, you got to take a shot on it. $10 gets you 80, 100 gets you 800. Come on, you got to do it. To round out Clemson here, I'm gonna take their over on the win total 10.5, juiced or getting plus money on the over. I mean, they went they won 10 games last year. They're bad last year. I think they're gonna beat teams that they should have beaten last year. This year, they're gonna come back with a vengeance. I think their defense is gonna be awesome, and they're gonna dominate this conference. That's my prediction. I really like Clemson this year. Tyson, are you doing anything with their over under on the win total?
What was that number again? Sorry.
10.5.
10.5. It's got to be over. In order to win the division, it has like the conference. It has to be. We just mentioned 2 11-win teams from a year ago. Clemson had 10 wins, right? And we envisioned them getting to play an entire extra game. So I think this team, like if they only win 10 games again, it's a disappointment. And that's where they're at because they're the big dogs of college football. But we've seen it time over time where, you pop up, you're 14-0, you're 14-0, and then you hit 10, and then again you're at 10, and then you're at 8, and then all of a sudden you're back to the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are you going to do anything on Boston College? Win total 6.5. We'll just go down here and kind of talk these win totals here.
That one is one I'm interested in, especially they finished 6-6 last year. We talk about Jerkovich, but at the beginning of this episode, I was like, oh, that's a smash. But then as we go through it, and I'm realizing kind of every team got a little better. So adding Phil Jerkovich might not be like realistically. I think this conference got about 1.5 to 2 games harder this season.
Right.
So I think that line is really good. If I had to make a bet, I'd probably lean over, but I don't know if that's what I'm going to touch.
I'm not touching it either. Like I like the line. It makes sense why. What scares me is it's juiced so heavily under, and you're like, that makes no sense. All you got to do is win one more. Their QB improves. But you look, Clemson's going to be better than last year. Florida State theoretically should be better than last year. Louisville should be awesome on offense. Then you have NC State and Wake Forest all in the same division.
And
then you got to play Miami.
Worse, but Pitt's still better than Boston College.
Exactly. So I'm not touching that either. Florida State, are you doing anything with theirs? There's that 6.5, juice a little bit over -115. Last year they went 5-7.
Yeah, I think that they win 7 games. I just think they. I do. I think the way they finished last season, I don't think people are paying enough attention, and I think that's why everybody was kind of able to keep their jobs over there. But like, they have to win 7 games. Like this is this is a joke. The Florida State is at 6.5 wins. This is it's never happened in our lifetimes, and I think like the QB play is bad, but I think everywhere else is just going to be enough improved that they can win 2 extra games.
Okay, I'm not touching it. I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I don't trust Florida State. They got to do something to prove to me that I should put my money on them. What I will do, I'm going to play Louisville over 5.5 on this. I mean, they won 6 last year, and yeah, it's juiced. I'll lay that. I don't care. I think this team's going to be really fun in conference. I think you're going to get a couple out of conference that you should win, and I think they can win 3 in conference. 4-4 last year. They should be able to do that. I think this offense is going to be fun, and they're going to be dangerous. 17th in returning output. I'm going to take my chances on them to win 6 games, which is what they did last year.
And I'll one-up you there. I'm going to take Malik Cunningham plus 8,000 to win Heisman.
Woo!
I think that if you believe in one, you got to believe in the other. Because if they go over 6, maybe they smash 6. They win 9 games, and that dude's legitimately in the Heisman conversation. And I think that, we just talked about a guy that ran for 1,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. His passing numbers, you said, left a little bit to be desired. There's a lot of guys in the country. There's a lot of teams in the country that would take his passing numbers over the guy they have, and the guy they have can't rush for 1,000 yards. And I think Louisville's got some pass catchers, plus 8,000. Man, I mean, the last 3-4 Heisman winners, were there any of them before the season that you thought, like Bryce Young last year? But besides him, it's like out of the blue, left and right over the last, 6 years.
Man.
And I got some more.
Okay. Hey, I love it. Plus 8,000, man. Sprinkle a little sandwich money, coffee money on there. Love it. Keeping it rolling here. NC State. I'm gonna lay another big juicy one here. Over 8.5. Kind of same thought process at why I'm doing it with Louisville. They went 9-3 last year. I think they got better. And you're basically saying, hey, just stay as the same as you were last year. I think they're better than Pitt this year. I think they're going to compete with Miami, and they're going to have a big game against Clemson to determine, I think, who's going to win this conference. I'm going to take a shot on NC State. Yeah, you got to lay the juice a little bit, but money's money. I mean, if they do it, they do it. I like NC State this year. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to play not only their conference future for a little bit, sprinkle. I like their win total over. What about you, Tyson?
I love their over. I think that one's a have to take. And again, Brad, we're dipping back in the Heisman pool. I'm gonna do it a couple more times. Devin Leary's also plus 8,000, and that's
You taking that?
That's a lot more realistic. If this team wins 11, 12 games, and this dude throws for 35 touchdowns and 5 picks again, 4,000 yards, who else are you gonna give the award to? Wow, there's a couple of them in here, man. At plus 8,000, I'm not talking like, okay, this guy's going to win the Heisman. Like, there's 10 guys I'd rather have. But if I put $3 down, I could win $240. I'll take it.
Man, I love the confidence. I love it. Syracuse, you doing anything with them? Win total 4.5, 15th in the country in returning output.
I'm not touching Syracuse, dude. I know we gamble a lot, but I can't touch Syracuse.
Wake Forest, 8.5, juiced under at -115. I'm not touching Wake Forest here. Only thing I'm going to play on Wake Forest is the plus 2,100. Because let's say they do get hot and win this thing. I'd rather have that in my pocket because I think it's going to take what they did last year at 11-3 to do it. But I would rather hit on that big number than play something at -105 for 8.5, where I'm holding tickets in this division for a lot of the others. So I'm kind of rooting against it. So I'm going to hold the conference future for a little bit of cash and a little bit of sprinkle there, but nothing else. You playing their win total at all?
I don't think I'll actually place a bet, but I do think 8.5 is a number that they can get over. Again, we're talking about plus 8,000 Heisman odds for Hartman here too. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can find one of these ACC teams that you think is going to pop, I can run through it. Brendan Armstrong's plus 10,000, Malik Cunningham's plus 8,000, Leary's 8,000, Hartman's 8,000, Tyler Van Dyke is plus 4,000, and I think there's a chance that these guys, at the end of the year, if the team is just right around Miami or good enough, they could have better counting stats than Tyler Van Dyke. And people don't watch the fucking games. So it doesn't really matter.
Taking Duke, 3.5 over under, plus 165 for the over, -195 for the under. Hey, they went 3-9 last year.
That's
if they did win one conference game, they went 0-8 in conference.
3.5 and it's juiced under heavy. That's funny.
No, you're not touching them.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, I am going to play one here. I'm going to go under 3.5.
Yeah, they're bad.
It's -110, dude. They're going to be horrible. They played the third toughest schedule in the country, according to Phil Steele. They're 120th out of 131 in returning output. 37 offensive line starts, only less than 50% of their yards returning. And here's what I love. Only 44% of their tackle output is returning. It's 118th in the country. This team's going to stink. I am taking under 3.5. They're going to be a dog mat, or the floor mat of this conference. I think if there's anything you can get, maybe it's an offshore. We didn't see anything on FanDuel. Last place in conference. Come on, man. They might not win a game here.
Yeah, they're going to be really bad. I haven't looked through the schedule to see, maybe they got dude, they might be worse than like a decent amount of FCS schools. So, like, I don't know about saying, oh, they get a cupcake. They're bad.
They're bad. Miami Tyson, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but win total 8.5. You on anything there?
Way up.
Oh, yeah.
Way up. Way up, way up, way up, way up. Tyler Van Dyke plus 4,000 Heisman odds. This is the one. Now when we get into the 4,000, 5,000 kind of territory, we kind of get rid of some of these other guys. Like, I like Hendon Hooker at plus 6,000, but I don't think he's actually going to win the Heisman. I think Tyler Van Dyke, with the narrative that Miami's going to have, and I think they're going to be good. And I think that if we can catch the Mario Cristobal first year, Tyler Van Dyke first year as a full-time starter, we can catch that narrative lightning in a bottle. There's a really good chance. And I think this team is good. Like, I think Miami's actually going to be good.
What's the Van Dyke? You're double dipping on this thing?
It's 4,000.
Tyler Van Dyke plus 4,000. Now that'd be something.
I like to hold a lot of Heisman tickets because they're all just crazy.
What's 4,000 for a Heisman, huh?
Let's see. I just gave out 4 guys.
In one conference.
$3 there. I could do 4 guys a conference. You do $3 on everybody. We're making money.
Ooh, man. I like it. I like that thought process. For me in Miami, I'm going to do the win total over as well, but this is my favorite bet I'm going to get out. I think they're going to win this division, the Coastal, at plus 125 on FanDuel. That's where all our odds are coming from, all our win totals and all the juice. I think they're going to be the best team in this one. I like that a lot. So I am taking Miami to win the Coastal Conference at plus 125. Tyson, North Carolina win totals at 6.5, juiced over at minus 160. Unders plus 135. They did go 6-7 last year. Any play here for you?
I'm not touching it, but I would lean under.
I'm not touching it either.
I just don't see a way this team's better than last year's team, and last year's team wasn't great. Like, there's some guy. North Carolina has some dudes for sure when you're watching them play, and it's like, okay, NFL player, NFL player, NFL player, but there's no quarterback in a conference full of quarterbacks. Like, this is the team that Brennan Armstrong puts 440 yards on, and we're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
is Jerkovich all of a sudden, and we're like, this guy could go in the top 3 rounds of the draft. Like,
I'm interested.
North Carolina is going to be that team, I think, this year that people are going to lose money on, anticipating some good football. And watch them. They got embarrassed by Virginia Tech a year ago on national TV.
That was bad. Sam Howell was horrible. I'm interested to see if you have an angle on this one. Pittsburgh, ACC champions, win total 7.5, overs juiced to minus 190. Anything you like here?
7.5 is low.
Low.
Like, I think they lost a lot, and I said that, but realistically, I think they're probably the 4th or 5th best team in this conference. 7.5. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on that one. That number's a lot lower than I thought it was gonna be.
Me too. I'm not touching it. It's way too low, and I'm not laying that much juice if they stink.
Yeah, because
Slovis gets hurt.
Good.
Virginia, your boys over here, win totals at 7.5. That they have to win 2 more games than they did last year. Overs plus 135, under minus 160. Anything you like here, Tyson?
The offensive line is so bad not winning 8 games.
No.
I think Brennan Armstrong's good. I think he's really good. But 8 games out of the worst offensive line in the country? Good luck.
You taking under?
Under. I am. Can't rush the passer, can't stop the run, can't run the ball, can't pass block.
I mean, that's a good recipe, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That's
a good recipe for the under.
It is.
I'm going to be on the same thing with you. I mean, we kind of tease it a little bit. It's going to be one of those conferences where you're going to have fun quarterback play, but it's still going to be bad. And I'm in the same boat as you.
We're talking shootouts here when we're talking fun. We're not talking the fun in the fact that it's a 10-win Bama versus a 10-win, LSU team in November.
Exactly.
We're talking like this one might be 60-55.
Now, finally, to wrap things up here on Money Making Time, Virginia Tech Hokies, first-year coach Brent Pry, win total at 6.5. They won 6 last year. Over is plus 135. Under is minus 160. Anything you're doing here?
I'm going to go under.
You're going under.
I don't think that Brent Pry is going to be that great of a head coach, personally. I didn't see a lot, especially growth over his career to this point. It just kind of feels like we're making the same mistakes over and over and over again. But Virginia Tech, I said it, right? They got a couple transfer quarterbacks fighting it out. They got transfer wideouts. It's a new system. It's a new culture. It's going to be rough. But they might sneak a win out over Pitt. And then people at the end of the season or whatever, a team like that. And then now we can get excited. But to start the year off, it's going to be rough. It's a bunch of dudes that never played with each other for a coach that never played for.
Yeah, I'd lean that way as well. I'm not going to make it an official pick. I'm going to puss out a little bit on that one. But although I should just pound it because I don't think they do it either. But that's going to be Money Making Time. All our selections for ACC Conference Do you have anything else to close it? You gave out your Heisman. Anything else for the people out there that you're particularly betting on?
Not in the ACC that I can think of. I mean, if you want to go bet, like there's special props like to win 10 plus games. Just go pick your favorite non-Clemson team here and then get into it. Like we got North Carolina State at plus 150, and they could win 10 games. Wake Forest is interesting because I mentioned they're plus 2,100 to win the conference, but they're plus 250 to win 10 games.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. That's a good little nugget from Tyson. Also, we saw opening week 1 college football, not week 0, week 1. NC State's laying 10.5 via FanDuel Sportsbook at East Carolina. Seems low based on what we're saying. We're probably going to be all over that, but we're going to do some more work as we get closer and closer.
No, we want to move that line. We want everybody to listen to this. We're going to go do it after the show. We want everyone listening to this, go put some money on that thing. Get it to 17.5 where it should be. And then we won't have to deal with
Duke, or then take East Carolina.
Yeah.
Middle it.
Yeah. All you guys pump this thing up.
Pump it up. Hey, this is great, Tyson. We always appreciate you guys listening to us as well. We're doing 4 more of the Power Fives. Pac-12's next week. Tune in. We got a lot of thoughts on the Pac-12. I think that's going to be an interesting conference for different reasons than the ACC. But that's going to be a fun one to break down. We're also breaking down our NFL divisions as well. Football only. Gambling is going to come later as we get closer and closer to NFL season. Follow us on social media listed below. Subscribe to us on this YouTube channel because we're going to have a ton more content coming out. We're going to have a big football season. Tyson, man, I can't wait for it.
Me either. And I just want to let everyone know that this week Brad covered the Yankees jersey up with his head because he's afraid to talk about the Subway Series, and that's fine. I'm not mad about it.
It's another Penn State jersey, actually, because it's
He
football
took the
season,
judgment
man.
down. Judge gets K'd up 3 times by Scherzer, and all of a sudden the jersey's out of your room.
Hey, he hit a walk-off tonight.
Doesn't matter.
He hit a walk-off tonight, so
was it off night?
Back. No, it wasn't, but it's all right. It's all right. Mets fans need something to smile about. I mean, we play for championships in October. You guys are happy about July stuff.
We've been in the same World Series appearances since we've been alive, so we could.
Oh man, Yankees fans are starting to sound a lot like Cowboys fans.
Yeah, getting close.
All right, well, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. That's going to do it for ACC breakdown, picks, and preview. We appreciate you as always. Pac-12 coming up next week. We'll talk to you guys then. Peace.